Welcome back to Yelp in the Dark. Today's project is fungal encounters. Mushrooms. We're going to make this fungal terrain using some super jumbo popsicle sticks, some pieces of scrap foam core that I've cut and glued together, and these handy dandy little wooden button things that look just like mushrooms that I found at the local craft store. I begin with 4 scraps of dollar store foam board that I've peeled and glued together to make about an inch thick chunk. Then I begin carving that into some stonework. Once I have a couple of good sized boulders, I pull out a jumbo popsicle stick for a base. These popsicle sticks are extra jumbo in width, but a bit shorter, but they make excellent bases and I don't have to cut anything. Do we still call it a popsicle stick? I mean, can you imagine the size of this popsicle and the disappointment in the child's face when he bites into that stick? I glue the foam boulders onto the stick. And while I'm waiting for those to dry, I paint the bottoms of the buttons in Suede. Once the glue is set, I check to see how many of these mushrooms I can fit per stick. And now, to paint the caps, I'm going to do half of them in Burgundy and half of them in Hunter Green. That way I have at least 2 different types of mushrooms for the players to choose from, in case I want to have a gag of one makes you big, one makes you small. That didn't come out right. Once the glue is dry, I cover the base in Black Magic Mod Podge, which is just Mod Podge with some paint mixed in. Props to Black Magic Craft for figuring that one out for us. Next, I use some vanilla to stipple in some spots on top of our mushrooms. Fun fact, mushrooms that look like this are extremely deadly. So why am I using vanilla? Why am I not just using white? I could use white, but white is boring. White, gray, black, those are just sometimes colors, and rarely found just as is in nature. I paint the sticks in golden brown, and then while it's still wet, I stipple in brown and mocha to give that wet blended look of the dirt that I've been doing during all my projects. Then I stipple in some olive green for our moss. I'm not really doing grass texture on this, so that's about as far as I need to take that. I base coat the boulders in deep gray. Then, with any edge that's facing mainly up, I paint over it with dark gray. Then, any surfaces that are flat and pointed straight up, I paint in gray. Finally, I glue on the mushrooms. I give the whole thing a coat of gloss and matte Mod Podge afterward, and I'm pretty much done. And that's our fungal scattered terrain. If you haven't been using fungus or poisons in your game, I recommend you do. It's a nice little evening factor against your players. Keep them on their toes. Thanks for joining me for today's project. Also, join us on the Tabletop Crafters Guild on Facebook so I can see what you're making.